If you're the kind of fan who wants to go beyond just cheering on Sundays and really understand how this team is being built, you're in for a ride. Because today we're breaking down the 2025 Las Vegas Raiders roster from top to bottom. This isn't your average recap. We're digging into the real details of this depth chart, the battles heating up in the offseason, and which names you better keep an eye on before week 1 hits. Let's start by talking about where this team stands. The Raiders brought in 11 drafted players and added 16 undrafted free agents, filling the roster up to 91 players. That's possible thanks to the NFL's International Pathway program, which lets teams carry an extra player without counting them toward the limit. So yeah, it's a full house, and the competition is already fierce at multiple positions. We'll kick things off with the most talked about position in football, the quarterback. The team used a 6th round pick on one guy and brought in another as an undrafted free agent. But don't let the round fool you. From what I've heard, the front office actually had a higher grade on that quarterback than a typical 6th rounder. They invited him in for a visit during the pre-draft process and came away with a strong impression. In fact, one source said they liked him more than another QB they already had in the building. That's important because it tells you this isn't just about depth, it's a real competition. The other quarterback in question was picked 185th overall, but even if both had been available, the team would have still gone with a new guy. That tells you everything. There's already some pressure on the incumbents, and this battle is one of the key storylines for training camp. Now shifting over to the running back group, things get interesting real fast. Ashton Gentry stands out as the centerpiece. He's the guy fans are buzzing about, but let's not forget this unit struggled last year. I mean, really struggled. We're talking last in the league in rushing yards per game and averaging just 3.6 yards per carry. That's brutal. This offseason, though, they've made it clear they're not running it back with the same formula. There's a new emphasis on the ground game, and Gentry is going to carry a lot of that weight. Last year's 6th round pick is still in the mix, and while he had a visit with another team during his draft cycle, he landed here and now finds himself in a battle to make the final roster. Special teams will be crucial for him because let's be real, there's only room for 2, maybe 3 backs to get real touches. 1 or 2 guys are going to have to carve out roles on special teams just to stick around. I'm projecting about 1,200 rushing yards for Gentry this season, but I've also gone on record saying I want to see 1,500 total from him. That might sound like a lot, but considering where he was picked and how much the team is investing in this run game, it's not outlandish. Moving to the wide receivers, man, this is going to be one of the most competitive rooms on the entire roster. You got Dante Thornton Jr. and Trey Tucker battling it out for reps downfield. Thornton brings size and speed, and Tucker, now in his 3rd year, is entering what many consider the breakout year for receivers. Meanwhile, Jacoby Myers and Jack Besh are looking like your reliable starters. They're the best blocking wideouts on the team, which matters in this offense, especially with a renewed focus on the run. The Raiders drafted 3 wideouts, 1 in the 2nd round, 1 in the 4th, and 1 in the 6th. That tells you they aren't satisfied with just depth. They're actively trying to reshape this position. Thornton Jr. was part of that influx, and Tommy Mallett, though he has some quarterback background, is expected to line up primarily as a receiver. That puts added pressure on Trey Tucker. He's got return value on special teams, no doubt, but his future on offense may hinge on how quickly he can stand out this offseason. Kyle Phillips is another name to watch. He was one of the first signings of the offseason and has ties to Chip Kelly from his UCLA days. Don't be surprised if he sneaks into the final roster. The staff seems to value chemistry and familiarity, and he checks those boxes. Now let's talk tight ends, because Brock Bowers is the headline here. He's the guy everyone's watching. Behind him, Michael Mayer enters a crucial year. If the team goes with 3 receiver sets frequently, Mayer might see a dip in opportunities, so he'll need to make his snaps count. I'm really curious to see if the staff tries to use Bowers in more of a receiver-type role at times, just to get both guys on the field. Ian Thomas is a name I think will lock up a spot because of his blocking and red zone presence. The other 3, Shorter, Ishmael, and Renan, are all probably fighting for a practice squad position unless they absolutely dominate in camp. Last year, we saw some 12 personnel formations with 2 tight ends, and I'd expect that to continue. It's one of the best ways to keep both Bowers and Mayer involved. If they can find the right balance, this could be one of the more dangerous tight end groups in the league. Now let's shift to the offensive line. And here's where things get really deep. Your likely starters are Colton Miller, Dylan Parham, Jackson Powers-Johnson, Alex Kappa, and DJ Glaze. That's a solid unit, but there are some question marks. The team drafted Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers, two linemen with real potential, both taken in the 3rd round. I think Kappa is the biggest story here. Last year, he was statistically one of the worst performing starting linemen, but the team gave him a 2-year, $11 million deal. That's not pocket change. He's got a connection with John Spytek, which probably explains why they made the move early in free agency. Now, if it were up to me, I'd start Dylan Parham at right guard and have Kappa come off the bench. But I'm not making the calls. Kappa will have to prove he's worth that contract. Parham, on the other hand, is entering a contract year. He survived multiple coaching staffs and continues to be a steady presence. I wouldn't be surprised if this is his breakout season. The competition between Parham, Kappa, and Jordan Meredith is going to be one of the most closely watched battles in camp. Fans across the country should keep an eye on it. Before we switch to the defense, let me just say this. Based on what I'm seeing, this offense is finally starting to come together in a way that gives me hope. It feels like there's a plan, there's depth, and there's young talent ready to push veterans for starting spots. We'll dive into the defensive side in just a minute. But real quick, I want to highlight something that often goes unnoticed. Player development isn't just about talent. It's about situation, support, and opportunity. Guys like Brock, Bowers, and Ashton Gentry are walking into scenarios where the team needs them to contribute immediately. Others like Trey Tucker or even Dylan Parham are being pushed by new blood and fresh schemes. And that's what makes this time of year so exciting. We get to see who steps up, who adapts, and who surprises everyone. All right, now let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. And believe me, this is where things get spicy. The Raiders have some big-time names, but they also have just as many question marks. Max Crosby, of course, is the heart and soul of this defense. He's the anchor off the edge, and you can bet he's going to be in the backfield constantly. Opposite him, Malcolm Kuntz returns, and Tyree Wilson is entering a make-or-break year. He was a high draft pick who's shown flashes, but still hasn't put it all together. This needs to be the year he delivers. What's wild about Wilson is that he told me before the draft the Raiders had no intention of moving on from him, and he was right. They believe in his upside. He's got freakish physical traits. We're talking an 86-inch wingspan compared to another teammate's 81. But that's all meaningless unless he puts it together on the field. He's heading into his 3rd season, and this is the time where we find out what kind of player he really is. Now let's dive into the second level of the defense, the linebackers. This is where things start to get shaky. Right now it looks like Landon Roberts and Devin White are penciled in as the starters, and while both bring experience and intensity, there are still real questions about depth and consistency. Roberts is that hard-hitting downhill thumper who thrives against the run, while White is the athletic wild card. He flies around the field but has struggled with discipline and coverage responsibilities throughout his career. Behind them, that's where it gets murky. There's one linebacker who, honestly, I don't think would make the final 53 if I had to project it today. And it's not just about performance. There's a legal issue hanging over his head, with a court date coming up in late July. That's a big deal. And it could open the door for a recently signed undrafted free agent to make a name for himself. The team's new leadership seems open to shaking things up. And if this rookie can flash in camp and preseason, don't be shocked if he earns a spot. One positive storyline is a player from the team's International Pathway program who's been generating some buzz. He was around last season, but didn't see much action. Now, with new eyes evaluating the roster, he's got a clean slate. If he wants to stay in Vegas, this offseason is his shot to prove he belongs. On the defensive line, the team added 2 interior guys through the draft and signed a big body early in free agency. 6'5", 335 pounds, the kind of guy who can clog lanes and take on double teams. He's not flashy, but every team needs a space eater like that. Then there's a second-year player, also 6'5", who still needs to bulk up. A lot of people forget these defensive tackles are still developing physically in their early 20s. Think about how much you change from 20 to 30. These guys are far from finished products. Even though the team added 2 rookies at the position, this young defensive tackle could still find himself in the rotation by mid-season. And now we reach a crucial spot, the nickelback position. This might be the biggest concern on the entire defense. Right now, the presumed starter is a player I respect, but I don't think he's the ideal option to cover the slot against today's dynamic wideouts. If he's your top nickel, you could run into serious matchup issues. That's why I believe the team will continue to explore other options here. Whether it's through free agency, a trade, or someone already on the roster stepping up unexpectedly. Looking at the outside corners, there's more optimism. Jacorian Bennett had a breakout season last year, and I expect him to take another leap in year 3. Opposite him, a newly acquired veteran brings experience and physicality. He's expected to compete for a starting job and could easily slot in as a CB2. But don't sleep on a young corner they drafted. He's tall, lean, and explosive. The kind of profile you want on the boundary. If he picks things up quickly, he could challenge for a starting spot right out of the gate. At safety, the situation is complicated. I like the guys they have. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sold that either one is a true starting caliber. Free safety. One of them, I think, could even be better suited transitioning to linebacker in certain sub-packages. He brings that physicality and short area quickness that works well close to the line. The other safety is a solid rotational player, maybe a core special teamer. But if we're talking about locking down the deep middle of the field, I'm just not convinced. The team seems to want to run a lot of 3 safety looks, but figuring out who that third safety is remains a mystery. There's a guy who barely saw the field last season but could be in line for a bigger role. He's got the athletic tools and the coaches respect his work ethic, but that doesn't always translate. Another recent addition, someone who's made a name for himself on special teams, might find a niche role here. Still, none of these guys scream starter at the moment, and that's a problem. And let's not forget about special teams. This group quietly makes or breaks games. The team recently brought in a return specialist, and there are several candidates for punt and kickoff returns. One player I'm keeping an eye on came from a top FCS program, played cornerback, and was listed as a wide receiver during minicamp. He's lightning fast, reportedly ran a 4.39 40, and has that electric burst you look for in a returner. With the competition as deep as it is across the board, his best shot at making a team could be special teams. Looking ahead, if we had to project the starting defense for week 1, it'd probably look something like this. Max Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz rushing off the edge, with Christian Wilkins and Adam Butler on the interior. Tyree Wilson would rotate in, especially on third downs. At linebacker, Robertson White would get the nod. Outside corners would be Bennett and Eric Stokes, with Isaiah Polamau at free safety and Jeremy Chin at strong safety. The nickel spot? For now, it's Darnay Holmes, not because he's clearly the best, but because he's the best option they have at the moment. That brings me to the final question I've been dying to ask. Which side of the ball is better? Right now? Because for the first time in years, I think it's close. Last season, no doubt, the defense carried this team. But heading into 2025, I actually feel more confident in the offense. If the front office can address linebacker depth, find a true nickel, an upgrade at free safety, then yeah, the defense might reclaim the crown. But for now, the arrow is pointing toward the offense, and that's a huge shift in energy. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. In a stunning move that has sent shockwaves through the NFL, star linebacker TJ Watt has decided to leave the Pittsburgh Steelers and sign a massive contract with the Las Vegas Raiders. The news broke earlier this week, and the football world has been abuzz ever since. Watt, widely regarded as one of the most dominant defenders in the league, will join the Raiders on a deal that is being described as one of the most lucrative contracts ever signed by a defensive player. Watt's departure from Pittsburgh comes as a surprise, considering his immense success with the Steelers. Since being drafted by the team in 2017, Watt has been the cornerstone of their defense, earning multiple Pro Bowl selections and a reputation as one of the fiercest pass rushers in the NFL. His ability to disrupt opposing offenses and his relentless pursuit of quarterbacks made him a fan favorite in Pittsburgh, and his leadership on the field was unmatched. However, after several years of contract negotiations and with the Steelers' focus shifting to rebuilding their roster, Watt opted for a fresh start in Las Vegas. The Raiders, a team on the rise with a burgeoning defense, wasted no time in making their pitch to Watt. With an aggressive front office that is always looking to make bold moves, the team secured the deal, offering Watt a contract worth a reported $175 million over 5 years. This deal not only makes him one of the highest paid defensive players in NFL history, but also signals the Raiders' intent to compete at the highest level. Watt's impact on the Raiders' defense is expected to be immediate. The team already boasts a promising defensive lineup, and adding a player of Watt's caliber will only elevate them to new heights. His presence on the edge will provide a much-needed boost to their pass rush and help bolster a defense that has shown promise, but needs a game-changer like Watt to truly become elite. His ability to create turnovers, pressure quarterbacks, and set the tone for the entire defense will be invaluable as the Raiders aim to make a deep playoff run in the coming seasons. For the Steelers, Watt's departure marks the end of an era. The team will now have to find a way to fill the void left by one of the most dominant defensive players in recent memory. While the Steelers still have a strong roster, losing Watt is a significant blow to their chances of competing in the highly competitive AFC North. The front office will now shift its focus to finding a suitable replacement and making adjustments to ensure that the team remains competitive in the coming years. As Watt prepares for this new chapter in his career with the Raiders, fans of both the Steelers and Raiders will be watching closely. Will Watt continue to dominate the league in Las Vegas, or will the Raiders' investment pay off as they aim for a Super Bowl title? Time will tell, but one thing is certain. The NFL has been forever changed by this monumental move. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Las Vegas Raiders, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.